mic check.
Hello. Welcome back, everyone. If you guys could settle down quickly, that would be great. All right, do you guys have a good lunch? Oh, damn.
Yes.
So sleepy. Do you guys have a good lunch just now?
Yes. That's it. All right, finally, moving on to the most important panels of today. Essay, being a good storyteller is what truly sets you apart.
Yeah, I wholeheartedly agree on you on that because I feel like if you really pour your heart and soul into the essay, it would definitely increase your chances into getting into your dream schools.
Well, definitely. Let us welcome Ga Yuan from Yale and Norwani Hazira from University of Michigan to share us their experience on how to craft a killer essay.
Let's give them a big round of applause. Woo!
Hi everyone. Are you guys ready? How was lunch? Was it great? Was it good? Okay. Welcome to Crafting a Killer Essays. I know it's 2 p.m. and the weather outside was, very nice to have a nap. But I hope you guys are excited for this one because me and Gayuan have a lot of things to share and spill. Okay, so. My name is Norwani Hazira. I recently graduated from University of Michigan. I studied, yes, Michigan. I studied economics, and right now I'm just enjoying my holiday, my free time, my cuti-cuti Malaysia. So yeah.
Hey guys, I'm Gaia and I'm a rising sophomore at Yale, and we're so happy that you're here. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for staying, and make sure you stay till the end of today because if you do, you get your own copy of my essay compilation. Yeah.
Okay, so before I start, I would like to know who here have started writing their essays. Can you raise your hand? Damn, okay, quite a few of you. Okay, good to know. Okay, so when we talk about writing an essays, just a friendly reminder that it is a very subjective thing to talk about. So you might be hearing different people giving you different advice, different approach, different strategy. But the thing that we will be sharing today is something that we both have done, and I guess it worked for us because we got admitted and stuff. So. Generally, when people apply to US University, they will use Common App or Collisions app. So you have to write a personal essays based on one of the 7 prompts that they give, and the word requirement is around 650 words. The second thing is supplemental essays. So this one is a bit shorter than the first one. And the questions is probably something like, why do you choose this specific college? Why do you choose specific majors? Or how do you think, for example, University of Michigan can support your interest in blah, blah, blah. And the last one is short answer questions. So this one is quite similar to supplemental essays, but a lot less word counts. And this is the example of the 2024-2025 Common App essay prompt. You can find it from their website. And I'm pretty sure quite a lot of you are familiar with the prompt, and this is exactly the same prompt that they gave me when I applied around 2019-2020. So yeah, they have 7 prompts in total, and during my time, I remember I answered prompt number 1. I wrote something about me growing up as a Malay Muslims, and then growing up with my grandparents, and then how I love to read, and reading is something that is encouraged in my religion. I even quote some verse from the Quran, and yeah, you can definitely talk about that or other things that you want to write about. Kaiwan, why don't you share what did you do, if you remember?
Yeah, so for my Common App essay, I wrote prompt number 1. I wrote about my personal identity, it was very honest, very raw to me. Yeah, so I don't know, just a personal take. I don't think it's a cliche topic to write about your identity as long as it's true to you. If it means a lot to you and you think that the admission officer should know about it, do it. Yeah.
I also would like to focus on question number 7. So if let's say you are trying to write the essays and then you were struggling to find the topic that you wanted to write about, prompt number 7 is basically saying write whatever you want, send us whatever you have. So if you are having a hard time, prompt number 7 is there to save you, okay? So don't worry too much. So after you've take a look at the prompt and you probably have like a bit of a rough idea on which prompt that you wanted to pick and you wanted to start writing. So now you've come to like the next step, which is to start brainstorming on what to write. When I first started this process of brainstorming of the idea or like the things that I wanted to write, I think it is really, really helpful that I talk to a lot of people. I talk to my family, I talk to my friends, like people that really know you. Ask them questions like, hey, what do you think of me? Like, you know, like questions, because sometimes you probably don't realize that about you, but they see it because, you know, like they're like a different person. And secondly, when you were writing your essays, you probably came across like a very unique or like niche idea, something that you never write before your whole life, and now you wanted to give it a try, but you don't know if it's okay to write that, and you are scared to do it. Coming from an alumni, I would say do it. That's a bit different. If you have like a crazy idea, or like a super niche topic that you wanted to write about, just give it a go. This could probably be your one and only chance to do it. So yeah.
Yeah, and for me, like, definitely write down your ideas ASAP. Like, I think that inspiration truly strikes at the oddest of times, like, whether you're in the shower, in the loo, like, anywhere. When you have, like, a random, like, thought, write it down. Like, for me, I use the notes app. Like, I could be walking, like, somewhere, and I'll be like, wait, like, you know, I have an idea, and then I just write it down. Like, it doesn't matter if your first idea is, like, not perfect, like, not concrete. Just write it down, because you'll have all the time later when you're, like, seated at a chair or something to work on your essays, you can refine it even more. So don't be afraid to have like imperfect and like undeveloped ideas. Just write them down. And the next one is to let your thoughts marinate. So what I mean by this is that all of your essay writing does not have to be finished in one go when you're like sitting down somewhere in front of your laptop. If you're feeling like uninspired or stuck, you could look at a prompt and then just read it once, twice, and maybe thrice, and then go about your day as per usual. Let it marinate, and once you have those like ideas and just things you want to write about, write it down, and then when you go home at night, try to make something out of that. And it's okay to have like many drafts. Like personally, I had like 10 drafts for each essay. So yeah, those are my tips for you.
Okay, so you figured out the prompt and then you've started brainstorming. Now you wanted to start writing maybe your first draft. So when you were writing your essays, you have to remember they are actual people behind the scene who will be reading your essays. These people have emotions. They can feel bored. They can feel annoyed, or they can also feel like very entertained by your writing. So you have to make a plan and strategy on how to grab their attentions and stand out. So the only persons who will be reading your essays is definitely your admission officers. And they honestly vary by ages. I've met admission officers who are like maybe mid-30s, and it's very cool. He can talk to me about like rock music, Coachella and things like that. But I also know admission officers who are maybe in their 50s, so they're like maybe like a bit old. So don't be inappropriate. And remember that what's funny to you may not be funny to them. And if you make any reference to what's on the internet, like a pop culture reference, do make sure that you explain that clearly and they can get your message from it. And also, you will never get a chance to communicate with your admissions officer on other platform other than your essay. So this is your best opportunity to communicate with them, to show them who you really are, and to stand out. So I mentioned a lot about standing out in your essay. So this is the thing that you have to run really, really far from. Like when you were thinking about like what to write, one of your main goals is to not write something that's cliche. You don't want your essays to be the same script as the previous 50 applicants have written. You want your essays to be unique. You want your essays to be personalized to your experience. So what makes an essay cliche isn't about the topic itself, but it is you, the author, that makes the essay cliche. You know, when you don't really dig deep into the theme or the topic of your essays, you kind of stay like on the surface level. So you can't really come out with a feeling or personal experience that are unique to you. So, you know, so if you can see here, I put something like overcoming adversity, women in STEM, and many more. So you might notice that some of it is actually part of the Common App essay prompt. So I am not saying that, okay, don't write any of this at all. But if you want to write it, you have to make sure that it is not cliche. So when you couldn't come up with an experience or feeling that are uniquely you, that's when you stop sounding like yourself and you start sounding like any other people, and that's when your essays like become very cliche. You have to make sure that you are being very, very specific to your experience. Focus on the most concrete and relevant experience. Eliminate any general topic or irrelevant content. And whenever, like when you read your essays, make sure that it is not interchangeable with anyone else. Like it was your essays and not something that other people can also write.
Could I just add
Yeah,
on
sure.
like one point? So just to add on to what Wani said, like you know that your essay is not cliche if someone were like, you know, like take out your name from the essay and then you give it to someone else to read it and they know immediately that it's you, it's written by you. So a good way to do that is to maybe like get your friends, close friends, family, parents to read it over. Yeah.
So this is something that I did to sort of solve the issue of writing a very cliche essay. So I tried to play around with the style of my essays, like the word choice, the sentence structure. So if you ask me, should you take the risk of writing in a very unique style for your Common App, for your university applications? I would say yes, do it. Take the risk, but then please make sure that you proceed with careful considerations because you don't want to offend your audience and you don't want to leave, you don't want them to have like a bad impressions of you. And don't be over dramatic or like create too much drama. You don't want to be focusing too much on the style of your writing to the point that you couldn't come up with like the perfect essay, like, yeah. And then this is something that your English teacher have told you so many times, show and don't tell. And this is something that I did. So I'm a huge fan of the New York Times and the New Yorkers writing style. I think they are very versatile. They're like so cool. And they were like New York Times. They are home to some of the most skilled journalists, some of the most like cool columnists, writers. And these people, they have like a strong mastery of the language and they have incredible storytelling abilities. So when I was doing my essays, I tried to read a lot of like articles from the New York Times. And I also think personally for me, it's easier when I read a lot. It's easier like for me to like write it down. So yeah, give it a try if that's something that might also work for you.
Yeah, so for me, I stuck to narrative writing a lot. But that's only because I had skill issues and I couldn't do like formal writing very well. So what I did was play to my strengths. And I did use a lot of humor, a lot. If you get the copy, you can like read it and let me know if there was a lot of humor. But yeah, and for me, when writing these essays, I took a very narrative approach and I tried to like weave in my lessons and the main point into the storyline, the plot. And a few of the essays that I did write, I think it was mostly for the short supplementals, right? I wrote in some sort of like rhetorical, philosophical way. I did put on a few examples there. You can refer to them later. But yeah, so I like all in all, I don't think there's like one correct way to write your essays. As long as you have like a clear message, a very clear point that you're trying to make across to the AOs and you execute it well, play to your strengths, like what works best for you, I think that's the way to go, yeah. Okay, so we're at the strategy for crafting your essays part. So for me, what I found very helpful when starting out my application, writing my essays, is to first take a step back and really think about what you're putting in the rest of your applications. Like what I mean by this is that your essays should enhance your characteristics, your traits that you've put out in the other parts of your Common App. So number one, I'll give you an example on the next few slides. You'll notice we're gonna use a holistic approach and have a strong central theme so that you can create this circular application that really complements your application well. Okay, so this is an example. So first, we're gonna look at your Common App activity section. The second one is your personal statement and your letter of recommendation content. And the third one is to consider all prompts for one application together. So let's see how this is broken down. So this is just a summary of, the formatting's kind of off, but it's okay. This is just a summary of what I put in my Common App section. So before I started writing out my essays, I went back to my activity section and I looked at it. So I wrote down a few main points that I really want to bring attention of the AOs to. So what I really wanted them to know is leadership, my advocacy for accessible education, and my academic interest, which was physics. Next slide, please. Okay, and the next one I did was to look at my personal statement. So I wrote about my identity and my background. And through that essay, what I tried to get across was perseverance and dedication, as well as my passion for accessible education. And then for letter of recommendation, this will be a bit wishy-washy and kind of an educated guess, because you wouldn't know what your teachers and higher educational counselors wrote in their letter of recommendations. But for me, I try to make an educated guess, because I asked my further maths and physics teachers to write me an LOR. I guessed that they would probably talk about my academic interest and dedication, my passion for physics, as well as my perseverance and dedication. So keeping all my Common App points in mind, as well as this. Next slide. I made kind of a map of the traits that I wanted to highlight in my essays for each college application. So these are the three main ones: leadership, academic interest, which is physics, and advocacy for accessible education. And on the side, it's just three kind of minor points. So humor, reading, which is my hobby, a very unserious hobby, and perseverance. Yeah, so next slide, please. So this is an example. This is kind of a screenshot of my essays for Princeton. If you stay till the end, you get the book and you can read through it, the whole full thing. So number one, I brought out my reading hobby. And number two, I talked about my academic interest, which is physics, as well as, I try to inject a bit of humor. So if you look at that line there, I asked, I put a dialogue. I'm like, why does the sun shine? And then my mom said, because someone set it on fire. It's kind of cheesy, but yeah. And for the third one, I wrote about perseverance, dedication. And for the fourth one, I wrote about community service. All of these traits together, if we put it together with your Common App activity section, as well as the other parts that I mentioned, it kind of brings your applications together. So that's how I believe that everyone should view their essays as. You should think of them as a glue that really helps paint a whole picture of you. Yeah, and next slide, please. And this is the supplementals. I just went off on humor. I tried my best. Next slide, please. And this one's for Stanford. So the first one, I recycled a lot of the essays. So something you might notice when you're applying to multiple universities is that a lot of them have very, very similar prompts. And when you can, to save your time, try to recycle, but definitely do not copy and paste. I've heard of stories where people put the wrong name of the universities and the wrong courses. That's really awkward. Don't do that. So make sure you read. Even though you're recycling essays, you should be recycling the main point, the plot, not copy and paste, because different universities have different word counts as well, even though their prompts similar. So yeah, the first one, if you notice, it's similar, physics passion. I think it's the same essay. The second one, that one's humor. It's a really cheesy essay, but I also tried to like play to my Malaysian background, Malaysian identity, by like including the first slide. Because, and another thing is that when you're applying to certain universities, look into their mission. Look into what values they really want to find in students and what values they uphold, like what values these institutions uphold. Because what I know is that Princeton, they really value community service. And now I'm not saying to like go out of your way to do that just for the sake of applying, like don't do that. But if you already have that in your application, really bring it out, like take advantage of the fact and let it shine. And like for Stanford, they really value like unique cultural backgrounds and identity. So, you guys, you're mostly probably from Malaysia. You already have that really unique identity and background, so really play to that. And the third one, I just talked about reading, so yeah. This one, honestly, when writing this was really like a very unserious time for me. It was mostly jokes, but I don't know, I guess they liked it. So if you want to use jokes, but at an appropriate level. Feel free to read. I think they're sharing the slides later anyway, so you guys can read this later. But yeah, next slide, please. Yeah, so just to like emphasize again, when you when writing your essays, please remember to consider what you've written in other parts of your application, because the last thing you'd want is to contradict yourself or like contradict whatever that's been written in your LOR and like personal statement. Because if there's like an inconsistency, the AOs are gonna like raise many eyebrows, and that's bad. So you want to enhance your personalities, bring it together, let it shine. Do not contradict yourself, and do not have inconsistencies in your application. So yeah, I hope that helped to like give you an idea on how to start your essay writing and really put things together.
So to wrap up, some general advice that we could share with you. Writing an essay definitely took a long time. It took longer than the way you imagine it would be. So always start early, like as early as you can. If you can start now, like start now. Proper time management is very, very important. And especially if you are trying to apply to many schools, and if you are trying to maybe apply through early actions, early decisions, or regular decisions. So pay attention to deadlines. And you can always refer to internet for inspirations. There's a lot of people sharing their essays online. And to answer questions like, how can a university help your interest in specific things, you can refer to university websites for that. You can maybe stalk your professors, mention his name in the essays. And always have your friends or teachers or just anyone else to read your essays and give feedback. I think as long as you give them like a proper time frame to work on it, they would be very, very happy to do it for you. Be careful with grammar. You've come to this part, so like you're writing essays for college applications, so you don't want to make those silly grammar mistakes. Be concise and not redundant, because most of the essays come with word limits. But I would say when you are at the start, when you are at the early stage of writing, when you want to free write, forget about the word count, just write. But towards the end, be concise and not redundant. And for me, I think the hardest part is to get started, because once you have like a draft and you have to like revise and rewrite, it should be a bit easier. And remember, first draft is not meant to be perfect, and sometimes it is not even the thing that you're going to be submitting at the end. You might scrap it all together, so do not stress over an imperfect first draft.
And as Wani mentioned, start early, but remember to also let yourself breathe and rest, because fatigue will not help that writing block. If you have a writer's block, take a walk, like talk to people, like do some hobbies, do something you love. Don't force yourself to sit on a chair for like 13 hours and try to cram out something, because that's like torture, and you're most likely not gonna be productive in those 13 hours, because you'll probably like spend most of it just stressing out and not getting anything out. So yeah, remember to rest. Rest is important. And of course, remember to manage your stress and expectations. I know that college application season is very stressful, especially because you're probably applying to like multiple universities and like multiple countries, and you have like school exams to take care of, like extracurriculars and all that kind of thing. So an example of this would be like, let's say, I think if you're taking like IBs or A levels in December, you might have a mock or like January, but that's also when your college applications are due. So, it's kind of like iffy, right? Like you can't let your grades slip, but you also have to like submit your applications on time. So what managing your stress and expectations can look like in this scenario is that you wanna get an A star or an A on your exams, but you know that that's like probably a broad cutoff for that, right? So what I'm saying is that you don't have to study to get that 100. Like don't stress yourself to get that perfect score on a test, because an A star, like a 90 and 89, like sometimes even a 70, depending on what subjects you're taking at A level, will also get you an A star. But definitely like the amount of past papers and effort that you will probably have to do to get 100, it's like a lot more than what you need to in order to get a 70. And you know that applying to colleges, it's like once a year and you have to like do it, right? So I'd say like spend more time refining your essays, refining your refining your applications, and tell yourself that it's okay to not get 100. I know you guys are probably perfectionists, which is, go you. But yeah, like tell yourself, it's okay. It's okay. Like let yourself loose. Like you'll be fine. Yeah. So good luck. And oh, yes, and one more thing. If you stay to the end of this session, you will get this book, which has all the essays that got me into the schools I applied to, even including the ones that I got rejected from and waitlisted, so everything's in here. Yeah, so stay and get this book, and it's free. So I cannot think of a better deal. Yeah.
Okay, Q&A. Hello. Questions from floor. Oh, okay. Yep. Eric.
Hi. Do you think there's like a sweet spot on the word count? As in, for the common app, they said like 250, 260, 650 words. But is there like a sweet spot like 400 to 500 or what?
Okay, honestly, like for me, I had trouble with getting it down to the word count. So I'd say don't worry about that too much, because you'll probably find yourself like editing so that you remove words instead of trying to meet the word count. Because more often than not, you'll have like more to say than what you initially thought. Yeah.
I think mine was close to 600, like the word limits. Yeah.
Yeah, I think mine was like 648. I have no idea, but.
Okay, next question. Anyone?
Hello, I read this book about writing college essays, and it kept emphasizing on not repeating what you've written inside of your common application, for example, in your honors or your activities. So I want to ask, how true is this? And it's because I have this major activity that I have in my application, but it means a lot to me, and I want to write it in my personal statement, but I'm not sure if it will be a detriment or not. Thank you.
If you think it's very meaningful, because some might say don't write it because you've mentioned it in any parts of your applications, but that is probably just like a general statement. It's like, okay, you did this, like you joined this. But definitely when you write your essays, you were able to like explain more and like what exactly you did in those activity. So, and like I said just now, there's not really like a one single like approach or like a strategy. So if you think it's meaningful, and you think it can make you stand out, I would highly recommend you to do it.
Yeah, and yeah, like I think definitely don't repeat yourself because you have like this many essays to write for one college and you want to make the most out of it in order to like show multiple dimensions of your personality. But then again, that doesn't mean you can like kind of emphasize again on what you mentioned in your Common App essay. Like for example, I talked about my background in my Common App essay, and then in a few supplementals, I kind of did like a callback, like maybe like 2 words, 3 words, 1 line, but definitely not a whole essay dedicated to the same topic that I talked about in my personal essay. Yeah.
Any more questions from coming?
Hello. I wanna ask about the cliche themes on the essay. So if the theme sounds cliche, how to convey the essay to like make it special about us, especially for someone who does not have any outstanding talents and extracurricular.
Okay, I'm gonna give you like an example. Okay, so let's say I volunteer with Teach for Malaysia, and then every morning on Saturday I go teach students maybe like around 12 years old, 13 years old. I taught them maths. So like what you see, like if you were to observe me from far, you can see that every morning I go to the tuition center, I teach the kids, and then the kids sit up at my table, and then I show them like how to do maths, blah blah blah, and then once the time ended, the kids left. I can write all of those in my applications, but because I was there, like I was the person who were doing those activities, I can also write, if I were to be more specific, I can write about what it feels when my students, my 13-year-old students, can finally do basic divisions. What does it makes me feel? Do I feel happy? Do I feel satisfied? Do I feel like I'm finally contributing back to the community? So it is some things that you can do. Maybe like, don't just focus on like the surface level. Don't just, like I said, if you were to write that, I go to the tuition center and then the kids sit around me, that is something that you can also see if you were to observe those people. You don't necessarily need to be the one doing the tuitions to see that, but the satisfactions, the feelings when your students finally understand what you're teaching, that is the only thing that you experience. So you can explain that maybe, I guess.
Yeah, I agree with Wani.
Okay, a question from Slido then. How do you balance being authentic and personal and being controversial in your Common App? To what extent should you let external persons influence what you write?
Wait, what do they mean by controversial?
Maybe like non-conventional, not like cliche.
Oh, interesting, okay. Huh.
How do you balance being like personal, authentic and being controversial in your Common App?
Okay, I'm gonna assume controversial means like uncommon topics that you want to tread around. Like maybe you want to talk about religion, because that's what I did in one of my essays. That was the most controversial thing I wrote about, but it was also very, very personal to me. So I'd say that, like, if it's personal to you, it's probably gonna be authentic. And if you know what you're writing is controversial, definitely get like a lot of people from different backgrounds to read over it. Like, for example, I wrote about religion. I had a friend who's very like, what's the word? I'm blanking. Devoted to God, to read over my essay. And she thinks that it's fine, like I wasn't crossing any lines. So yeah, I definitely did that cross-check. Yeah. I hope that answers the question. I'm not sure, sorry.
And the second part is, to what extent should you let external persons influence what you write?
Ooh, I'd say there's nothing wrong with getting like external opinions, but if it doesn't align with what you believe in and it's not something you agree with, definitely don't write about that, because your application is supposed to be about you. So your ideas have to be original, but it's definitely okay to run those ideas through like someone you trust, just to get like an outside person's perspective. Yeah.
Okay, another question for Slido is what do you think on starting an essay with a rhetorical question? What other ways would you recommend to start an essay?
What are the ways that I can recommend to start an essay? I think when I did my essays, it's a lot of like personal stories, I guess, and I think that's also what most people did.
Yeah. Like for me, I mostly, like I said, I wrote in a very narrative way, so it's kind of like not really an opening to a storybook, but it was inspired by that a lot. So you could also like, if you have a favorite novel, favorite author, you love their style of writing, you could get some inspiration for that. I think that's a good starting point as well.
A question from up here.
If y'all don't mind sharing, I just want to ask, like, how did y'all manage to figure out / identify like the sort of defining like themes or character traits that you wanted to highlight in your applications, like any like methods or
I think for me, I honestly just talk to people, like ask like what do they think of me, and maybe if they can help me highlight some things that they think worth highlighting about myself. But Gaiwan, what do you think?
Yeah, like I think the first thing you should ask is definitely yourself, as cheesy as that sounds. But if like you've experienced something like really important, something so life-changing to yourself that it built like extra character points that you want to tell the AOs and you want to like highlight that. Like if you were to take that character trait out of you, you're not gonna be you anymore. That sounds very philosophical, but that was how I approached it. Like, if there's that one trait about you that is so important to you, definitely like highlight that throughout your application, because you want the AOs to have a full picture of you. Yeah.
Okay, and another from Slido is should we cross-check our essays for accidental plagiarism using a plagiarism software? What is your opinion on the use of AI in essays?
Good question. Oh, okay. Plagiarism checker. I haven't found I didn't have the need to use that, only because like all the stories you write, it's like super personal, right? I don't know how, like, I mean, I don't know, correct me if I'm wrong, but it's probably gonna be very, like if your essay's personal enough, it's gonna be really difficult to find someone else who's experienced every single like thing in your life like exactly as you. If there's someone out there, that's really creepy, and you should probably ask yourself if your essay's personal enough. Yeah. But yeah, plagiarism checker, not much, because like that's usually for like academic papers, right? And for AI, definitely don't get ChatGPT to write the essay for you. Like, don't put the prompt in and be like, please write something. Like, no, but what like people suggest is like you use ChatGPT as a Grammarly Plus. Like, why pay when you can ask ChatGPT to correct your grammar and ask if your grammar is correct? Like, I think that's fine, but don't ask it to like write essays or like come up with ideas, because then that's not like original anymore. So yeah, definitely stay away from that. And also ChatGPT's not personal enough, like you shouldn't, yeah. Yeah, maybe that one will be plagiarized. They'll probably copy off someone else's life. Yeah.
If I can add a bit about the ChatGPT. So so I had an English class my senior year. So during the class time, we did a lot of, we take a look at a lot of ChatGPT essays. And actually, you can easily spot that if that essay was made by ChatGPT, because it's very like general, no really like real feeling, real experience. So yeah, please don't do it.
Yeah, and also just a quick add-on, like if grammar and sentence structure is what you're most concerned about, I'd say reach out to like an English teacher at your school. They will be more than happy to help you. Like, don't be afraid, shoot them an email. Like, you see them walking past, you just ask. Yeah.
Okay, anything from the floor?
when I'm writing my essay, how artistic or how cliche should I write my essay? Because in your example essay, you write some jokes and humors, and in my draft, I wrote my challenges as a monster, and I quote, the monster hid within me, ready to unveil itself. Like, to what extent should I write those stuff, and should I tone it down a bit?
I mean, honestly, like, I see potential in that. Like, yeah, like if you execute it well throughout your whole essay, like, obviously don't overdo it, but if there's a really like deep meaning to that, like you don't want to like joke about. Okay, I don't know about joking about trauma, fine line, but if it's something that's so like deep to you and you need like certain phrases and a certain like tone to convey it, I'd say go ahead. Like if that's your style, there's nothing wrong with that. Yeah.
Any more from?
Hello? Okay. Oh. Okay. I'm just gonna okay, just making sure. So my question is about getting back into writing, because I take mostly sciences subjects, so there's not a lot of writing involved. And my most recent experience with writing was about 2 years ago, I think. So any advice on how to get back into writing?
I'm sorry if this is not something that you expected, but I would say write. Because like that's the only solution, I guess.
Yeah, that's true. Wait, no, but I get you though, because I took all sciences and writing's like not my forte. Like it's so bad. But what I found helped is reading. Like reading, I only read novels, so I did a lot of that. Sometimes there are like certain threads on Reddit where you can get like short stories. Read that. They have amazing writing style. I'm sad that I have to admit that in real life, but Reddit, yeah.
Or maybe you feel like writing a whole essay is a bit daunting. Try something shorter, like writing a tweet or Instagram captions, and like go like up after that, I guess.
Yeah. Or like honestly, sometimes just start with the short supplementals. Like trick your brain, you know. Oh my God, it's so fun. Yeah. Like write the supplementals. Like start from there. Yeah.
A question from SlidesGo is, how can you determine that the final draft is the best one? Yeah.
For me, it's like, you know, but let your friends read it, and if they're speechless, first check if that's a good kind of speechless. If it's a good kind of speechless, you know. Yeah, that's what I did.
I would say it's more or less like, you know, when you were going for an exam, you will never be ready for it. And I guess that's the same with the essays. Like you don't know like what's the point to stop. I think until the deadline you will still be like reading through your essays. But maybe like what Gayon said, if your friend are speechless with it, then you're good to go.
Any more from the floor?
There's one here.
Oh, excuse me. Hi. Do you suggest writing metaphorical essays? Because like I feel DJ and our supervisors are usually like they put like metaphorical essays. Like one of our alumni an essay about like Pokemon Go, like nasi lemak, like weird theme and topics. Like I want to ask your thoughts and opinions. Do you suggest that? Do you think it's a way to make us stand out? Yeah. Thank you.
I mean, okay, honestly, if like it's definitely unique, and do it if you're comfortable. Like if you find yourself having to like fake it or like continuously having to like ask for someone else's, like for their ideas on what to put, then maybe stay away from writing that, because the AOs can tell whether or not it's really you. But if writing about topics like these is like a good way for you to like showcase your personality, like for example, I wrote about TikTok. It was I kind of wanted to like push the humor part out there, so that's yeah, if that works for you, go ahead. Like I would say, yeah. Like there's no right or wrong really.
Okay, and I think that's it. So can we have another round of applause for our speakers?
All right, guys, you heard it yourself
Mic
from the
check, 1,
essay
2.
experts. Let's give them another big round of applause. After all those questions and very active engagement, I'm pretty sure you guys are all ready to write an essay now. So, Kai, I think we're almost reaching the last panel of our speakers today.
Yes, I can finally take a break from this persona. With that being said, US students have a lot of options to explore after their undergraduate. Here we have Alia. Here we have Alia Fadril from SUNY Plattsburgh and USC, Hanif Azmir from Columbia, and Brian Su from UC San Diego to share with us about their respective experiences with their choices after US undergraduate. This session will be moderated by Justin Liu.
Yes. All right. Hi, everyone. Thanks for being here. I think we'll just start with a round of introductions. So if you can roll the slides. I'm Justin Liu. I'll be moderating this panel. I graduated from Wesleyan in 2018 as a Freeman Scholar. Oh, actually, yeah, let's start with Alia.
Well, hi, everyone. My name is Alia. I am one of the oldest panelists here. Brian and I, we bonded over this. So we hope to give you a bit of perspective about what happens after the happy ending, right? You graduated, then what happens next? So I would call myself a non-traditional candidate, not only in my schooling life, but also in my professional life. Because I went straight after SPM. I had no plans. I didn't know what would happen next. And then I got a letter. Tanya, you've been selected to go for PLKN. For those of you who are too young to remember, I went for national service, yes. And so my mother was like, okay, so what's your plan? Like, you are going to NS, in a little bit. So I actually attended one education fair. I met a very, very nice American lady who said that, you didn't go pre-U and all this, never mind. Submit your SPM results, take your SAT or ACT, and then you apply, see what happens next. So right before I go to Kuala Kubu Baru, I submitted. And then I took actually a day or two off from NS to go take my ACTs. And I forgot my calculator. So I thought that was it, my dreams were dashed. I had to maybe defer another year, but lo and behold, I got my acceptance. So I got a partial scholarship from SUNY Plattsburgh, so that's why I'm forever grateful for smaller universities in the United States, because they really believe in the immigrant story, in what kind of value we bring to the country. So on my end, that's when I did biology. And then I graduated, tak tahu nak buat apa, took my OPT, I became a high school teacher. So I taught physics and chemistry, and I applied for my master's degree. And so that's why I got my Master of Science in Global Medicine. I didn't know what to do, so then I joined the startup scene in California. So I did that for a year, and I felt like maybe because of NS shaping me, I said, you know what, I want to go back to Malaysia and look into international development, right? About how do we build a better Malaysia. Maybe it was also during that time when semangat patriotisme was very high. So I decided to come back. I worked at a non-profit. You'll hear a little bit more about my experience. And then I joined banking, and then now I'm working on energy supply chain as a sustainability manager. So I hope to give Hope to those who came from sekolah menengah, who didn't have the resources. Yeah, my public school reps, being a Malay, being a Chinese, coming from a single mother household, I hope to give you all a little bit of story of the non-traditional path. So thank you USAPPS for having me and look forward to our conversation.
Man, that's a lot of things. Alia mentioned one of the oldest on the panel because I'm the oldest in the panel, but by not much, just by a year. My name is Brian Su. I went through a more traditional path, I guess. I didn't go straight from high school. I went to A-levels because parents said that, you know what, if US goes bad, you can go to UK. So that's what I did, took A-levels, at the same time took SATs. Didn't really talk about SATs to many people in A-levels because everyone was going to the UK. So what I did was went to, was it topusschools.com or something like that? Look at the list and just chose the best schools, right? Just apply to everything. Got into UCSD. Oh, I see a UCSD person here. Thank you. Hi. So went in there and changed my majors a couple of times because wasn't sure what to do as usual. But that's the good thing about US education. So I graduated with an international business degree and wanted to stay in the US because land of the free and land of dreams, so I moved up to San Francisco. And the land of the dreams looked very different up there. But still, a lot of startups were there. But came back for a very personal reason. I think a lot of you will go through personal reasons as well. Mine was health issues in my dad, and decided to come back to join the family business. UCSD, but I'm also repping my company as well, Firefighter. I'm not Bomba, but I make everyone else a Bomba through our products and services. And it's my 5th year now as the Chief Innovation Officer, so new products, new services. Yeah. And yeah, I hope to share some thoughts and insights. Thank you.
Thank you guys so much. So a bit about me, I am the youngest in the panel. I literally just graduated this past May. So I only have like 5 months of post-college experience. But I think it's very apt to explain my experiences. And I have my graduation pretty recent. So a bit about me, I think I'm pretty much the most traditional out of the whole panel. I did SPM, I got a scholarship. I was a YK scholar, Yayasan Kazana scholar. And I was part of the early harvest batch. So I got the scholarship even before my SPM results came out and went straight to A-levels. And that's why all of my peers I sort of like graduated early. I did Earth Environmental Engineering, was passionate in like environment, I can explain it more. And right now, I did my A-levels at KY, by the way, and I did my SATs there. Super supportive environment. And then I also attended USAPPS when I was applying. So I'm pretty much like you guys, probably back then. And then after this, I'll be starting my I'll explain a bit of my work experience, I guess, in terms of internships back in the US. So I did work with like the UN and also did work in semiconductors and like NASA affiliated work as well. And then this coming October, I'll be joining Kazana because I'm bonded with them. Thank you. And I'll be also pursuing my graduate school in the University of Chicago, my MBA. Thank you. All right, that's a bit about me, but I'm excited to share more.
Right, and I'm Justin. I graduated from Wesleyan in 2018. And I'm actually starting Columbia this fall in 2 weeks for my master's. I came back in 2018, also fresh on the hope that, we have a new government and things can change. I started at KPMG for a year and then Kazana for 2 years. Got a bit jaded with the corporate route, decided to explore like sustainability at a nonprofit. I find it more to my liking, which is why I'm going on my master's route now, also under YK. All right, so I think that's a pretty good introduction for the panel. The first question, let's talk about career paths. What career path did you have in mind while you were in school, and did that shift after you graduated? And also, were you thinking about, staying in the US versus coming back? Anyone can go first.
Yeah, I can start. It's pretty recent in my mind. So I'll start by saying what actually changed. So there's two things I came in mind when I started my undergrad journey in the US. So first thing is that I was super interested in the environment, but particularly diagnosing the environment. So I wanted to know, how do you track air quality? How did you do emissions? And but that actually changed by the end, in the sense that I was actually more focusing on giving solutions. Part to it was that early on, back then, when I signed my contract with Kazna, there was there's Kazna people here probably, but I'll be pretty candid. So when I signed the contract, there was an opportunity for me to defer my bond by 3 years. And I was definitely thinking of pursuing my career in the US first for those first 3 years after I graduated. But I think halfway through, they sent an email to all of the scholars saying that that clause was revoked from our scholarship, and you were to return to Malaysia and serve your bond directly after you graduated. So that was like also a shift that I had to make in terms of mindset and what I wanted in terms of my career after graduating. Okay, in terms of career, let me just make it simple. So I think diagnosing environmental solutions, I really got a big, I went deep into the deep end when I entered Columbia. So I was able, so one of the few things that my major was focusing on is called Earth and Environmental Engineering, was energy A. B, we're focusing on like minerals and mining, and then C, we're focusing on water and waste management. So I really got a deep dive of all the different things. So during COVID, us as Earth and Environmental Engineers would go to each dormitory, get the water sample, and find which dormitories had like highest COVID strains, and then lock the dorms down. So it's interesting practical application for us. And then in terms of like emissions, so I worked at the UN for a year. So what I did there was like develop methodologies to help quantify emissions. So there's a huge statistics database that's available online where countries can know what their emissions stats are for. So I supported them, and I traveled a bit. So I was like in Vienna and Rome to help support their cause in trying to understand what the actual emissions are for the. I was in the United Nations Food and Agriculture Organization specifically, and we were able to map out and come up with a good idea of the emissions across the food chain, actually. And then I work with semiconductors. That's basically just risk analysis of like conflict minerals. And then right before I graduated, I worked with a NASA-affiliated job. So I couldn't work with NASA directly because I think you guys are something you have to know is with NASA or like agencies like this, you need to be a US citizen. So I worked under an affiliated agency called the NASA Goddard Institute of Space Studies, where they were looking into the impact of emissions, the different emissions profiles towards their agricultural work in New York. So there was a huge grant by the Department of Environmental Protection. They wanted to know each scenario, what should we do for best management practices? That's basically it. And I think, and I pivoted, obviously, right now I'm doing something that's more investments related, and I'm super excited about it because I think it's a really different portfolio that I'm going to be looking into. But I'm definitely interested in like energy work as well, etc. So, and in terms of mindset shift, I definitely had to pivot towards a more Malaysian-centric. I also went through the whole US job application process, got written offers and also job offers in the US. I think it's interesting on what needs to be considered, I guess. But I can explain that more, but that's just my whole experience, I guess. Thank you.
Thank you. Can I just ask a question in the crowd? Who here would want to work in the US after graduation? Okay, quite a bit. Who would want to work there forever till the end? Okay. Flip side of the question, who would want to come back to Malaysia after graduating? Okay. So quite a good mix of everybody. Who here, last question, right? Looks like I'm moderating. Last question. Who here has parents who have a business? Oh, quite a bit as well. Okay. I was a bit shy. Okay, I'm a bit shy too. Okay, yeah, I guess for me, I had to go through all three phases. I wanted to work there for a bit in the beginning. Then I wanted to work in the US for life. Then all things failed and, not failed, but all things shifted and I came back to Malaysia. So when I was in school, I was really interested in startups. And so how I got into that was, first of all, joined a startup weekend in Malaysia, of which we won first prize, and I took a quarter off to work on that. Then went back to the US and joined an incubator, which was in school. Then had a bit of money to sort of work on the idea. And then after that, set up a company to work on that project while being in SF. But then I realized everything to do with product, everything is manufactured in China. So I was flying to China. So it makes more sense to be here anyway. But then I really wanted to stay in the US, just because I think US is very good at marketing themselves, of being the best country in the world for a lot of things. And you know, that naturally makes you want to work there as well. But I think after coming back, due to, as mentioned, my dad suffered a stroke. He's fine now. He's chill, he's running, still scolding me at work. But after coming back here, I do see the flip side of things, right? I do see Asia also growing as well. So now I think the experience of being in startups really helped in a 50-year-old family business, where in startups you tend to work on something first. If it's bad, you say sorry. If it's good, yeah, it's all me, right? So that whole mindset really helps in really innovating the space, I think, in Malaysia. Very broad, but I guess we'll get into it deeper later.
Disclaimer, I like to bercerita, or as your generation call it, yapping. So I will start with, I have a Gen Z brother, so I'm trying, okay? So for me, it was a tectonic shift, to be honest, because I wanted to be a doctor for a very, very long time. Hence the biology degree with minors in English and chemistry. So I really was the full-on science student. And when I was in undergrad, I was volunteering at hospitals, and I saw the reality of American healthcare, right? About how people take Ubers instead of ambulances because they can't afford it. That even if you have insurance with copay, you still can't afford it, and you basically choose to either go bankrupt or die. And a lot of people choose to die. So for me, I really didn't know what's next, you know? Like, I graduated, got rejected by a bunch of medical schools because, fun fact, medical schools in the US for non-US citizens is harder to get into than some of the top universities. So I really had to think about what was my purpose and what did I really, really want to do. So that's why I went into teaching, because it goes back into service, right? I really wanted to make a positive impact, and from there I applied for this degree, as I'm sure some of you never heard of. It's called Master of Science in Global Medicine. And what that meant was 6 months I would have spent in medical school, 6 months in the public policy school. So when I was in medical school, I still remember I had to get out of the library after being there for like 8 hours. And I had to call my mother, shaking, in front of the library and said, "Ma, I don't want to be a doctor anymore." And I was so scared, right? And the funny thing about my mom is she's not the typical tiger mom. She was, but at that point she wasn't. But she told me, "Alia, I am so relieved. Do you know how hard it is to be a doctor?" Then I said, "Oh, okay, this is not the reaction I expected, but thank you for your support, you know." She said, "How about an engineer instead?" Because she was an engineer, she still is, you know. And so, but that kind of love and support just speaks to the kind of person my mom is and the kind of person she managed to bring up. So then in the public policy school, I got to go to UNHQ. So I was in New York doing a research project about the impact of healthcare, refugee healthcare specifically on women and children in conflict areas. So when I did that is when I really was like, okay, I want to go into impact work, I want to go into humanitarian work, but I felt I had no skills. I didn't have the right experience, right? I'm not a doctor. I graduated from School of Medicine, but I'm not a full-on doctor, so I need some technical skills. So that's why I joined startups and became a data associate. At that time, AI was not so sexy, but I was an AI trainer, you know, of trying to understand how we can teach these large-scale language models to do the kind of work we want them to do, rather than just stealing artists' job. But that's a conversation for another time, right? So that's why I worked in startups for a year, because I think that's where I get to really try on multiple different hats, try different things, and that's the beauty of working at a startup. I'm sure Brian would agree that you really play multiple roles. And so when I decided that, okay, what's next? I wanted to go into international development. I came back to Malaysia because I was like, where else better than home? Because in the US, of course, I can do a lot, but I was also like boxed into my major. Because for those who don't know, when you want to apply for your work visa, OPT, you need to have a job that aligns to your major. So if you cannot show how it matches up, you actually cannot take those jobs. I don't know if they've updated that policy, but it really boxed me into what I can do. So for me, I think there's pros and cons to either or, and I'm glad to see that there's a good mix of people who are trying to decide whether they want to work in US, work in Malaysia, because I'm going to be the first, or maybe the first few, to tell you that there's no right answer. Every opportunity is what you make of it. You want to be successful. Look at all of us, we're all different and we're all successful in our own ways. So don't put so much pressure on yourself. But yeah.
All right, thank you. I think I want to follow up on that a little bit. So probably something that's on the mind of some people here is just, what is it like working in the US versus Malaysia? And I worked a fair bit while I was studying there as well, and I found the culture is really very different from Malaysia. So maybe just quickly, if each person can highlight a major difference they found working in the US versus when they came back to Malaysia.
Okay, because I worked at non-profits and I worked at traditional corporate, from a JLC to now a public listed company. I think a little bit more. In the US, it's really that hustle culture. It's really good for you because you really get to try different things, you overexpand yourself, but every single paid time off you earn. So you really have to fight tooth and nail. And in a way, it teaches you that kind of resiliency and all that. But of course, there were also cons of your mental health will be impacted, right? And also, you will always, this is not a very popular take, but you will always be a second-class citizen in the US because you're an immigrant. But that also comes with its own challenges. For me, I 100% recognize my privilege as a Bumiputra coming back to Malaysia. I'm Malay on paper, even though I look Chinese. But these are the privileges that I had when I come to Malaysia and the kind of opportunities that I had. And that's why I felt it was important to lift up my brothers and sisters. I've seen how my family is being treated just because they are different race and different culture. And that's our responsibility to be the next generation to lift them up. So for me, working at a GLC, at a nonprofit, at corporate, there's all pros and cons. For me, I got very, very lucky that I'm part of an organization now that really emphasize on continuous learning, that everybody has a shot, that we operate in 18 different countries. I get to work with Norwegians, with Brazilians, with Africans, and even though we are a Malaysian-grown company, please Google Yinsen if you've never heard of it. Fun fact, we were the ones who pledged 1 million ringgit for those who brought back the gold medal. And if you're wondering why, it's because we started as a humble transport and logistics company. So we really believe in the vision of Malaysia. So for me, the biggest difference is really mindset. So whether you are in US or you are in Malaysia, that is something they can never take away from you. Your knowledge, your capabilities, what you bring to the table. Because every one of us here in this room have a unique skill, superpower that you bring, and no one ever can take that away from you, but rather how do you cultivate it? How do you go into environments that will embrace you rather than choosing to see you as other?
Thank you.
Yeah, so just to share a bit of what the working experience I had in the US, one of which was I did a part-time in a company that does, they were actually the first company that did true wireless earphones. So the earpods that you hear now are based off the design of this company, of which this company was then bought by Bose headphones. So they were designing these earphones to help people to sleep at night. So instead of just putting in your, what do you call it, the earbuds? Yeah. So this helps with sleep, so it plays like white noise. So that company got bought by Bose, and when I was working in there, on the outside it's really sexy, right? This amount got on Kickstarter, they raised this amount, but in the back end as a part-timer, we had a counter in the office showing how many customer complaints we're having, and our goal was to lower that down to as less as possible, as little as possible. We were about 1,000 complaints at the time. So marketing, right? Marketing. So the next company I was in was actually also in a headphone company for some odd reason, which went bankrupt. Okay, this one went bankrupt. So one difference I see compared from the US to Malaysia is really communication when working. In the US, it's quite simple: English, emails. In Malaysia, WhatsApp, email, WeChat, voice notes, pictures, and the rest. You need to learn English, Malay, mainly English, Malay, and a bit of Chinese too, right? Yeah, so I can't speak Chinese, it's horrible. Yeah. So communication is very important, and I didn't understand that in the beginning. I was asking everybody to just email me, but then that's not how it works in Malaysia. People WhatsApp here, and it's more efficient in that way. So I think don't get that culture shock when you're there. People would use iMessage, right? Are they still using that in the US? iMessage, so go with an iPhone, please. Yeah.
Hello. So mine will be quick just because I didn't have opportunity or I didn't intern in Malaysia. All 3 summers were in the US. But I did have discussions with my peers about the difference, basically. I think one thing that stood out, one thing that really stood out to me was the culture of, I feel there is a hierarchy mentality that exists within the Malaysian scene. Or I think during my US experience, you were very much encouraged to talk to higher ups. Or like you could just ping or Teams them generally, what we call them, and have a chat, even like a COO level, and get to know them personally or go for like a coffee chat or anything. But I think there is a hesitancy here in the Malaysian scene. So I did have a conversation with a friend who worked intern in JLC, and she sort of like pinged the CEO, and they went down for coffee chat, but it caused a ruckus in the office. Like, how did this intern suddenly chat with the CEO? And I think that's honestly probably there's like a difference thing that happens in Malaysia, but honestly it's pretty common in a US setting. People just want to know you well, and I think it's a pretty positive experience, I guess. And that's the only thing that I have in mind. So yeah, I guess that's the culture here compared to culture in US when you're working.
Yeah, really second Hanif's point. I think there everyone's encouraged to speak up, regardless of who you are. You're evaluated on what you say rather than who you are. It was a bit of a rude shock when I came back. I was in corporate and, just saying whatever's on my mind. It beat me quite a bit. But then I realized that after I came back for a bit, there are teams that really appreciate that and teams which really hate that. So just look for the one that's right for you. Next question. So for the next question, I want to talk a bit about the liberal arts system, which I think is like the main unique selling point of going to the US. I think it's just so different from the UK and Australia, which was the reason that I chose the US, and perhaps for you guys as well. So what do you think is unique about the liberal arts system, and how has that influenced your life and career?
Go first, just because I just graduated. So at Columbia, there's this thing called the core curriculum, which is a set of classes that everyone, regardless of major, has to take, which I find super interesting. And I loved it because first thing on my mind is that it's really easy to talk to anyone in school about the classes. So if you're trying to go for a networking event or you just want to know someone in depth, we've all taken a class called the Masterpieces of Western Art, and we just derive our conversations from there. Or if someone is talking about Iliad, or it's a book by Homer, and there's a new translation out there, you just send it. There's a base ground where everyone can converge and talk about the same ideas. And I find it's such an asset, especially when you're trying to network with people. And especially in Colombia, there's lots of people. Networking is such a big thing, especially in New York City. And I find that in terms of practicalness, it was really to be talking something beyond your major, because I was an engineer, and being able to have conversations with people who probably don't know anything technical was super nice to have. And then B, I think the liberal arts system really helped me improve my worldview in lots of different ways. Why do I say this? I think with the Malaysian curriculum, corroboration of ideas, always supposed to take ideas face value. I think lots of subjects like sejarah in SPM, or probably like Pendidikan Islam or something along those lines, are given to you as facts. And it was very nice to be able to deconstruct how those facts were derived to begin with. So you look in primary sources, secondary sources, and I was doing this as an engineer. And I think that really enhanced my critical thinking skills, being able to come up with how these conclusions were made, how they derive the evidences, and you are always engaging in critical discourse, and you really improve your writing skills and your problem-solving skills along the way. So just a bit, I think, just a bit about how I transitioned to the role I have now. So I think I told you guys that, like, for a big portion of my life, I just did diagnosis. So I just know there was a problem, basically. I know emissions are high. I think everyone knows that. I think people know water quality is bad. But I think I was sort of like in this moment, junior summer, where I don't know how to solve all this. I know there's a problem, and I'm stuck. And then one thing in my mind that I came up was I want to pivot out of this. And I think what really helped was actually my liberal arts curriculum to be able to deconstruct in a way the problems I had. I think engineering, the courses I'm taking didn't really help me conceptualize the problem, but the liberal arts and the other classes that you could take helped me supplement into that problem-solving idea. So I think by senior year, I really dived into lots of case studies, especially in the realm of energy. I did a bunch of different projects under the Department of Energy as side quests. It was time-consuming, but I had to adapt, and it was it wasn't just engineers in the project, but different people from different backgrounds across the school. And I think it was just nice to bond with people on some similar topic, and the liberal arts curriculum does that. And yeah, I think it's just helping you to really think critically and have a common idea of where your beliefs are, so you're always challenging them. And I think that's super valuable as you go forward. You look at different worldviews when you're traveling or experiencing, you read them up, and then it sort of challenges your own worldviews, and you can do critical debate with other people. And I think that's what the liberal arts gives you, I guess. But yeah, that's my more recent experience.
Yeah, I think I can only echo what Hanif said. To be honest, it's the critical thinking aspect, right? For a lot of us, for those who went through SPM, you were really thought, you belajar ni, you memorize ni, semua okay, jalan. But being in the US, it really gave me that independence to kind of think for myself, right? A lot of the questions were more subjective. It's a bit more of asking for your opinion. What are your thoughts? And for someone who maybe I wasn't comfortable, I didn't know how to do that. That was really, I think, where I got a chance to figure out about what do I care about, actually. What is my purpose? And being able to be more empathic and open to other people's perspective and opportunities, it really helped me, I think, become a fuller human being. In the past, we were taught to maybe, weakness jangan mention, it's better you focus on your strength and all these things, but facts is facts. It makes you who you are, makes you special, and it taught me how to embrace that and how to flex your style, right? Being able to, depending on the room, depending who you're talking to kind of put yourself in their shoes and being able to share that from a very common human level. So on my end, I think that was something I experienced, and to something that was mentioned previously in the panel of that hierarchical system, right? We're coming back to Malaysia, how to manage that. Because for me, it got me into a lot of trouble, as you can imagine, because I speak up sometimes, because that's my true authentic self of if something's wrong, that doesn't mean I become the most popular person in the group, but if I'm delivering my work, if in the professional space I am still becoming the best worker that I am, I'm contributing positively to my team, to my organization, they may not like me, but they cannot fault me that I am effective, right? So that's where, again, if you're in the US at the moment, to really embrace that ability to plot your life. What does that look like? How do you set yourself up for success? Because that system allows you to do that. When I told my mom I wanted to take a minor in English, she was like, sure. Would that delay your graduation or stuff like that? Funny enough, it didn't. I graduated in 3.5 years. So she was like, okay lah, jalan lah, do whatever you want. So I took class on Greek mythology. I took class on Roman mythology and stuff. And as most of you know, some may not be super agreeable in terms of learning about gods and goddesses from a different culture. But for me, being able to explore that exposure, right, and really get to have a more rounded worldview, it has really, really helped me. And so if you are pursuing or you're already in uni, take that random class, history of yoga, or, and all these things, because you'll be surprised. The quote that I like to always think about is how Steve Jobs took a class on calligraphy that was not related at all to what he was doing and all that, but that was really, he said, the catalyst of what made Apple into such a successful business, because he thought about aesthetics, he thought about how that would look like. So really put yourself out there and don't feel boxed in, that every single thing that you do must contribute to you becoming the best, most successful person. Sometimes just take a class because it's fun. You're still young and you still deserve that opportunity to just figure out who you are. So that's my 2 cents. Yeah.
Can I just go off your taking random classes? My favorite class, and also my favorite question to ask interviewees is, what is your favorite class in university? My favorite class was actually called Mao Zedong's China. I took that class to see why my ancestors left China to Malaysia, but I didn't learn any of that. But what I learned from that class is that sometimes your intended consequences is not what will actually happen. So a funny story from Mao Zedong's China is that he gained a lot of popularity and people were worshipping him. So much so that people in China were actually making Mao badges from metal, and this metal was actually depleting the metal that was actually used to build the cities. They needed metal to build bridges, build buildings, but because of the love of Mao Zedong, they had that lacking. So that is one of my favorite classes. So please take a random class. My roommate took massage classes. Never gave me a massage, I don't know why, but take that random class.
All right, I'm just cognizant of time here, so we'll make the next one the last question. And hopefully there'll be room for some Q&A. Yeah, and if possible, just keep your answers to 1 minute lah. So I want to talk about what are your thoughts on the pros and cons of the various career paths, right? There's private, there's government, GLC I guess is a hybrid of that. There's non-profit, because I think there's various experiences here, even internships from Hanif. So yeah, just what do you think of these paths, and maybe why did you choose the one that you're on?
Yeah, I think I'll start this time. You know, sometimes you have that itch in the back and you really want to scratch it. Even though you know that doesn't hurt you and you don't have to scratch it, but you still scratch it. So I think in the US, I believe in the US education system, it sort of embraces you to want to try things. And that goes the same with careers, right? If you really want to go join sorry, I'm going to give a very weird example of a massage company, right? Let's say you want to go to a massage company, but you know that may not be your end goal. Just try it, right? Just try it. For me, it was that itch to look at the startup world. Hence why I moved up to San Francisco. Hence I interned and did part-time in the startup world. And at that point, it was not clear that I was going to be in the family business, but all of those experiences really helped in shaping what I'm trying to do now in the company, which is to revolutionize fire safety with the products that we have. So, no right or wrong, I'm just going to copy your answer. Yeah, no right or wrong. I would say to scratch the itch, right, if you can.
Okay, I'll try to give a testing. Okay. I did all of the above, so I can share a little bit. If you really want to stretch yourself with minimal pay, but with maximum character development, with maximum skills and all this, do startups. I genuinely cannot emphasize enough of how much I have grown as an individual because of the startup scene. Because really, you get to do a little bit of everything. Fundraising, business development, client management, marketing, semua lah under the sun. And also, I guess this is something that a lot of people may not realize, is jangan just chase the name. Of course, a lot of times people say, it's all about your network. You know, if you join the Big Four, you join the 3 MBBs, you know, you will be successful, set up for the rest of your life. But I think Jalil Rashid has spoke about this before, whereby if you go for the smaller teams or the smaller companies, that's when you actually, it's not just a number. You are not associate number 2 in the company and trying your best to like network and trying to find the right opportunity. So for me, coming from startups, and if you look at my resume, I don't come from big companies. But to me, I emphasize more on what kind of opportunities I want to be a part of? What kind of team do I want to work with? Because this is a marathon, it's not a sprint. You know, people are living longer and longer. What kind of life do you want to set yourself up? So for startups, I think you get maximum learning. And when I first came back to Malaysia, I actually had a full-time job at a non-profit. But also at night, I was working for a startup remotely in Seattle. So you can do both. Don't recommend in terms of long term. But if you really wanted to and you really value yourself and you really want to invest in yourself, look for those opportunities because they are available for you. I think with GLC's, again, the hierarchical structure that was mentioned before, I still remember I was at a board meeting, right? And I had to present to the board, and I was just some random assistant manager, but they really wanted to know about ESG and about what value it brings. And I still remember this uncle come after the meeting saying that, oh Alia, next time, you jangan duduk depan tau, you make sure you duduk belakang. And I was so shocked because I didn't come from that kind of environment, right? But I had two ways on how to respond to that, to make myself small, right? Every time I go into the room, yeah, tuan, and all this, or to be authentic and ask him, like I asked him, like, kenapa I kena duduk belakang? I was presenting what? My boss kata kena duduk depan. And you just make light of that situation because it goes back to maybe niat baik. You know, he was maybe intentionally trying to make sure I tak buat silap, or I don't shine too hard and all these things. But it goes back to people are going to have opinions, right? But you ask your boss, like for me, I asked my leader of like, to do and all this, he said, yeah, you're presenting, takkan nak duduk belakang, right? So that's just the reality of it. If you find the right support system, the right coach and mentor, you will be able to be successful regardless of where you go. Sorry, a bit panjang.
I have no answer to this. I'm pretty much a baby, or probably in the womb still. I still haven't started my job, so I'm learning a lot from them. So yeah.
All right, and with that, I think we'll open up to Q&A.
All right, do you have any questions from the floor? Oh. Hello? Yeah, any questions? The
Hello, hello. Thank you so much for the interesting insights. Post-degree work life. So actually I wanted to ask, since US is known for its very open, flexible curriculum system, education system, I really wanted to ask, does it really matter when we choose our undergraduate degree? Does it really matter if it doesn't really correlate to the first job, not only the first job, but the first few jobs that we do? Because walking into that, like choosing subjects, choosing majors, choosing concentration thing, it's very hard to choose one that you feel like, oh, I'm definitely going to get a job with that or something like that. What are your thoughts on that?
Testing. Yeah, so I think there's two ways to answer this, right? For one is the practical reason. Why your major matters when you are going to undergrad, because it's your OPT. It's linked to your work visa, whereby they say if, for example, for me as a biology degree holder, I need to take jobs that align to biology degree. So that's when your major really matters, because I cannot like just randomly take a job in business and all this because it doesn't link to my major. So that's the practical answer. But in terms of in practice, right, the reality of does your major matter? I think it really depends, right? So if you really know exactly what you want to do and you are very steadfast on it, I think go ahead and do that. Having tunnel vision helps because it keeps you focused, right? But if you decide to first go as an undecided major, I don't know if we can do that now, but back then you can come in as an undecided, then you can actually choose your major afterwards. But the main message here, you can always pivot. Because it goes back to what is your core offering to whatever job you do. Like how I describe myself, my 3 strengths is stakeholder management, business development, project management. What kind of job do you think about when you first hear those 3 things? It's transferable skills. So whether I was in NGO, whether I was in banking, or whether now I'm in energy doing sustainability, those 3 core strengths I can still bring to all those industries. So it depends. If, like, for example, my brother is a biomedical engineering major, Now he's in Houston working as a project engineer. That one tak boleh lari lah. You cannot just pretend to know what engineering needs, right? So he was very much focused into knowing what he wants. So it goes back to really think about what you want, but don't also feel bad and have regrets of if you don't choose the right one, because there really isn't. It's about how you sell your story. Yeah.
Yeah, if I can add, I think for my school, my major was economics that required 9 credits. I did about 36 credits throughout my 4 years there. So it's really only 25% of the classes I took. To give you some perspective on just how much are you studying, that's part of your major. Of course, it's school dependent, but if you would like to explore, there are definitely schools that allow you to do that.
Yeah, just a bit. I don't know if this was mentioned, but you do have time to decide when you want to declare your major. That's usually in your second year. And there's lots of opportunities for you to take classes, intro classes, or just ask seniors how the experience is to finally decide on your major that you decide to major in. But no, it's not there's lots of ways you can pivot out of things for sure.
Okay. Any other questions from the floor? Okay, right down there.
Hello. Okay. So I want to ask any of you, because you mentioned OPT, I asked about this last week to one of the people at the university talk, but he couldn't give me a guaranteed answer. Now, because your OPT is only 1 year and 3 years if you're doing STEM, what about afterwards? When it comes to green card applications, how difficult is it? Do you have anybody who's applied for it? And how does that process go? What are the chances, Yeah.
Oh, yeah, sure. Just because it's a conversation I've been having a lot, I think I'll be candid. There's lots of people within my sphere who think of breaking the bond and how would that look like. And obviously, life after, so you have your OPT, and after OPT is typically your H1B. So H1B is a visa, and right now it's pretty much a lottery system. About 10% of people get it. It doesn't matter which company you work at. It can be the most prestigious company in the entire planet, but if you don't get a lottery, you can't pursue your education after. So the conversations were all about, if I break my bond, I have this much to pay, and I have a US salary that typically, hypothetically, we want to continue. You want to work in the US forever, I guess. But realistically, you probably only have 3 years, and after that, it's pretty much a lottery system. It's not based on what job you get. So I think that's just a general idea of the system. But yeah, go ahead.
I think the person who spoke to you is absolutely correct in terms of there is no guarantee. And that one we cannot emphasize enough. What is guaranteed is your OPT for now. If Donald Trump wins the election that's upcoming, no promises, right? What their structure will look like. So there is no guarantee. Exactly as Hanif mentioned, there is a lottery system for H1B. So even if you work at Microsoft or the biggest company in the world, and I'm telling you this not to scare you or to demotivate you, but to give you the reality, because I didn't get that when I was your age. And so that's why the H1B is a lottery system, but there is also a green card lottery that you can submit year on year. So that's also something, yeah, you can try, but again, there's also no guarantee. And I have friends who not only have found the love of their life, and they're super lucky. I got lucky that I found the love of my life in Malaysia, and he's here to support me. But also, so sometimes you balik Malaysia, you never know, So, okay, anyway, you can either get married, of course, to get your green card, but that's also a very long process. You need money, you need lawyers and all these things. If you get lucky, 100% that's an option. And also joining the US military. So there is another option. So up to you. Those are the different options that you can explore. Yeah.
I'm just going to add on to one of the point, right? I think some of y'all put up your hand that you want to work in the US indefinitely. So do look out for the green card lottery. I just Googled just now. It's still available. A green card lottery is open to anyone, I forgot, I think above the age of 18 probably. Anyone, you don't have to be in the US, you can be here. You just cannot be Singaporean or Chilean. Those are the 2 countries that you cannot apply for green card lottery.
Because they have specific quotas for those countries.
Yes. The percentage of winning a lottery is, I calculated, 0.03%. So it's very, very low, but try it because I know of people who have gotten it before. Yeah.
Yeah, just a final comment from me. I know it's supposed to be a lottery, but I have heard that certain organizations could stand a higher chance. McKinsey consults the government there, so I've heard that you stand a brighter chance, as well as big tech. And I have a friend who worked at big tech, kept trying for 3 years, didn't get it. And what they did is, because they have offices worldwide, right, they just transferred her to Dublin. And she stayed there and kept applying until she got one. Then she went back to Silicon Valley. So that's another option.
Okay,
I think
thank you so much. That's the end.
Before I go, can I say one last thing? Yeah, I do have a final comment for the parents in the room, because that was my job as an orientation leader to speak to the parents. And I think a few of you are parents. Because I think it's really important that your voices are also heard and you have your own concerns about sending your kids so far away, right? And I hope that you feel comforted, that you trust them to have guided them, to give them the right advice, and also to listen to them. Because I called my mom this morning, obviously. So she told me that the biggest lesson she's learned after sending me so far away, she said that I've learned to listen to my daughter. I learned to trust her, and if you create that safe space with your kids to be able for them to blossom, to thrive, then they won't be scared to tell you things. They won't be scared to be open with you and really share with you their struggles, their challenges, and also their wins. And I think that was something that she wished someone had told her, because she was so caught up with how worried she was, right, about sending me so far away, that she didn't give me that space when I really, really needed it. So I just want to say that we see you and we hear you and we know you have good intentions, and thank you so much for raising us, because I think that's something that we don't emphasize enough, that we get the opportunities that we do because we have that support system. So, yeah.
All right, thank you so much. Hello? All right, what a way to end our very last panel session for today. Let's give them another big round of applause. It's always so refreshing to kind of just like zoom out and look into like the bigger picture and like plan out what we have in the long run, and to hear what our job prospects is going to look like. So a few surprises for you guys.
I check 1, 2.
So we have a few surprises for you guys, but before that, we would really appreciate it if you guys take 1 minute or 2 to fill out this feedback form. So this is really important for us to kind of know what to improve for the next year, and to know how we can help you and support you better in the future.
of hands, how many of you have completed the feedback form? Okay, thank you. And for that, you got a special present.
So we have a few special presents for you. So first of all, we mentioned this earlier, like briefly yesterday. We have this Notion template ready for you. So basically what it does is that it gives you like a template that you can, okay, I think Alison is directing us there. So basically it's a template to make sure you guys will stay organized throughout the whole application season. And what it consists of is basically a lot of checklists and a space for you to do a lot of reflections and like, you know, kind of list down all your extracurricular activities and the reflections for each and every of the ECAs that you're involved in. Alison, do you want to add more to that?
Oh yeah, and along with that, two of our facilitators, Kaylee and Sarah, have created a resource, an essay resource. I'll also add this to the participant group chat later, so don't worry if you couldn't scan it. But so we have a lot of resources for you. We created this resource just for you this year, so. And shout out to Kaylee and Sarah for creating this essay builder. And then, yeah, and we also have some fun playlists for you. And if you know Notion already, you can duplicate this website so you can edit it in the way you want to. So this is now yours.
All right, thank you, Alison. So next, as promised, we will give out the free Gayuan's essay book to only those who participated in both days. So if you see your names here, please come to the front and claim your prizes.
But don't worry, because we'll give you the QR later. But first, for those who came.
Yeah, so if you see your name, you want to take a picture. You can also get the online version.
Can we have the people who have, if you see your names, come down and retrieve your books, please?
Hi, before you receive your tote bags, please remain in the hall.
Well, I think by now you would know if you are receiving a physical copy or not. So here you go. Here's a digital download version for those of you at home or just here or prefer a digital version. Another surprise, we have access books, so whoever doesn't have a physical book, come down and get your books, guys, because we love you guys. forget, there's also stickers in the back. USAPPS stickers, first of its kind. First ever USAPPS stickers.
All right, up next we have college booth, and each college booth there will be a few representatives from their respective university. They'll share to you about their experience. So feel free to ask questions like, how's your major at your college? What kind of extracurriculars did you do in high school? What's unique about your college? You know, talk about it. You know, understand their college at a personal level. So yeah, pass it back to Nia. Oh. Yeah, and also we have family groups after, so remember the stick.
So family groups up now.
Okay, we have family groups now, so remember the color of the sticker. So at each color of the sticker will follow a facet, and the facility will guide you to the respective class group, so to speak.
All right, guys, if you guys can settle down just for the last 20
All right,
seconds.
everyone calm down now, everyone. Calm down.
All right, just some closing remarks. Thank you so much for participating and being a very good crowd and very active, very engaging. We hope you guys had a great time and learned a lot from the speakers and also just talking to the facilitators and also everyone else in this room. So we really hope that we can see you guys in the States and maybe join us as facilitators or speakers next year. Woo!
Yep. All right. Just before you guys leave, I have it just takes 5 minutes of your time. I think the next 6 months might be the most transformative, inspirational months for the applicants. You know, I think you have to have tough conversation with yourself. I think you have to have this tenacity to pursue these dreams of yours. I don't think you should look at it as an obstacle. I think you should look at it as a grand opportunity for you to bet on yourself, to compete against everyone from the world. You know, to join that university where the brightest mind, gather. You know, so yeah, I believe each and every single one of you will have a story and bet on that story, regardless of what's the outcome. You know, you should appreciate that you have this privilege, this opportunity to bet on yourself. So tell your story, sell yourself. All right, good job, guys.
Can we please take a moment and give some love to our MCs, Nia and Kai? And also, could we also thank our core committee, Roger Harith, and also Allison, Wafi and Ayman. I know you're not here, but thank you as well. So yeah. All right, so we're gonna move to family groups now. Right, so can I request Aizat, Hannah, Arina, who else? Victor, who's the last one? Who's the last one? It's okay, Rishi, come. Oh, Putri Sarah, sorry. You and Rishi, go. All right, so where are your stickers, guys? Your white, green, yellow, blue. All right, white team, follow Hannah to your ADP classrooms, please. White team. Those with white stickers, go follow Hannah now to your family groups. The non-white teamers stay behind so that I can allocate you. You apa? Green. Yellow? Siapa yellow? Yellow? For those who are wearing yellow or neon, that neon thing, follow Aizat. Aizat, pergi. Follow Aizat now. And thank you for the online people. We're closing right now. We'll see you next year. And then for blue team, for Arena.